Movies and TV shows don't just pop into existence. They don't make themselves. It takes a team of people from around the globe. And those people, they need a director. Today, Derek and I are talking to animation director Crystal Chesney-Thompson. Now, if that name sounds familiar, it's because it belongs to Derek's better half. She's going to let us know what it takes to do what she does, how she got to getting doing what she's doing, you know, the things that inspire her, move her, motivate her, and drive her nuts, other than Derek. But this was recorded several months back. Today, in real time, we just learned of the passing of Mr. Chadwick Boseman, Black Panther, T'Challa. Now, Mr. Boseman had been battling cancer for about 4 years. He was diagnosed back in 2016 and did not make it public. So I guess Captain America Civil War had just come out. He would have been 39 years old. Yeah. He was not just a hero on the screen, he was a hero in real life. Battled until the last. It brings me to something important. You. Do not take your time for granted. Do not take your friends for granted. Do not take your health for granted. It's not just COVID-19 that gets us. Cancer kills 10 million people a year. Colon cancer killed 53,000 people in the U.S. last year alone. Colorectal cancer is the second leading cause of cancer-related deaths for men and women. If you're around 40 or over 40, get checked, please. One of my very good friends, the father of my goddaughter, in fact, was given 4 months to live with stage 4 colon cancer. He lasted 3 more years. These things hit home, and they hurt, and it's hard. Do not take things for granted. People, friends, loved ones, or yourself. As Mr. Boseman said, when I stand before God at the end of my life, I would like to say that I don't have any single bit of talent or ability left in me. I used everything you gave me. Well said. Well, I didn't say it well. He said it better. But this episode of Random Fandom is dedicated to Chadwick Boseman. Thank you, Mr. Boseman.
Welcome to Random Fandom, a podcast for the jacks of all trades. Each episode we talk to a different master of their craft.
Hey, that's what I'm talking about. Wait! Okay, now, from the beginning.
Hit it, boys.
I want that shirt.
Thank you.
Dang, you have good
Do
shirt.
we dare tell him where it's from?
Is it from Hawaii?
I'm obsessed with kids' clothes.
Oh, yeah.
And so there's this brand that I buy for my daughter, and they finally started making like adult women clothes, and then they made a few men's pieces. So I have
Really?
a dress that's that same fabric.
Oh,
And I was like,
great.
oh, they made a men's shirt. I love this.
Great. Yeah. Oh, man. I love Aloha shirts.
But it's like a really good, and then I love like the fabric on the button part. It's
Yeah. That's really nice. This is my shirt that my wife got me. So.
That's awesome.
Yeah. She got another one, the Star Wars font that says.
I had one of those moral dilemmas today. The neighbor lady said, "Oh, I've got something for your kids in this bag here," and she comes over to me with no mask on. And I was like, "Okay, give it to me from afar, thank you."
Spray it with alcohol.
I sprayed her.
Oh. My eyes are burning. Yeah. So tell me, how'd you guys meet?
I'll let you tell it.
my version of the story.
Sure.
Oh, wait. Before we do that, this is a podcast. We gotta. This week, Derek, you have the honors of the introduction.
Okay. Welcome to Random Fandom. We have a very, very, very special guest tonight. I have to say 3 varies because this is my wonderful wife, Crystal Chesney-Thompson, and she's joining us from the other room. She's in the other room. We're a podcast
Social
where
distancing.
That's right. So even us. Yeah, she's in another room. But we're a podcast where we talk about how many skills come together to make the whole thing better. And Crystal's a woman of many talents. So let's get started.
Yeah. Crystal, thanks for joining us. I know that you guys get to talk very often, but we don't. And I've always wanted to pick your brain and see what in the world made you marry Derek. No, I'm just
Crystal, James, Crystal.
Hello, pleasure to
Hello.
meet you, James.
Pleasure to meet you too. Derek, you know obviously Crystal's skill set much better than I do. You know, I go and I look on IMDb. What is it that she does and everything. On the other
A good
hand,
pose though.
Yeah, it looked really awesome. Yeah.
doesn't doesn't do you justice. So, first, I guess, tell me how you guys met.
So we
Right.
met at Cal Arts.
Okay.
Derek was my teacher in 3rd year animation. And yes, he was my teacher, my professor. But when he was my teacher, I didn't like him because he was a very good teacher. But when I would ask questions, I'd be like, I have a question. How does this thing work? And he would look at everyone but me when he answered the question. And I was like, okay, fine. I guess I don't exist or something. Little did I know at the time he was trying not to look at me because he thought I was cute.
I was trying to be professional.
Very professional. I just caught on. I was like, why aren't you looking at me? Look at me.
I'd say that's a very good question. Now the answer to that is
You want to make sure everybody else is also paying attention.
Exactly.
Right.
But he
Very
also
personal.
gave me, he was very like straight up with the students. So if something wasn't working that I was doing, he'd let me know. He's like, a lot of the teachers treat everybody like snowflakes and like, oh, that's beautiful and wonderful because of this. And you're great. Everything's great. And Derek was real straight up. He'd be like, okay, yeah, that's good. But you draw too light. I can't see your animation, and this is not working. This is not working. And this is not working. I was like, he's so mean. And then I get into the industry and my directors are like, you draw too light. This isn't working. And this isn't working. I'm like, okay. That's what my teacher was telling me. I really listened to him.
Just
So,
listen to about other things. Like when he asked,
Yeah.
marry me. You did listen to that one, apparently.
I got a hand slap years later.
Oh.
The dean at the college at Cal Arts says, you shouldn't be using the student body as a dating pool. And I said, I would never do that. I have a code of ethics. He goes, what about Crystal? I said, well, she didn't even like me when I was a teacher. I was like, well, that's not really helping my case here, but we met in the industry.
Yeah.
Right.
So, which
Right.
leads.
So you knew each other in school. Well, as you were teaching, but
yeah.
So Crystal was in school. You met, and then you met again outside.
Right.
And then
Right.
you said, "Now you're free." Mm-hmm.
Kind of. When we were, the way that the animated shows work, whenever they finish up a season, different groups of people go on hiatus, and different people come on in different shifts. So I was already working at Rough Draft when Derek got hired on, and some other people who knew him really well were like, I hear them talking, oh, Derek Thompson's coming. Derek Thompson's coming to work here. And I was like, oh, no, that guy. I don't like that guy. And I talked to my mom. She said, just don't worry about it. Just be yourself around him. And just don't, just because he was your teacher, it might be imposing. Just pretend none of that happened. None of it existed, and just be yourself. So then whenever we were around each other, I just acted like myself because I didn't care. And I was at that age where if you were trying to date somebody, you'd act a certain way to try to make them like you'd act different than you really are.
Right.
But I never acted like anything other than just my normal self around him because we were just cool. And then he went on hiatus before I did. And when he left the building, I was all of a sudden like, oh no, I super miss hanging out with him. Like, oh no, I miss him so much.
Oh,
What
that's
happened?
good.
We'd have
That's
lunch
good.
together all the time. And yeah, it had evolved from, you know, like being acquaintances at work to going to lunch all the time. And then our cubicles were sort of near each other. So we'd throw things at each other and all kinds of crazy hijinks happened.
But you get to
Like-
see how each other are like in real life without all the. In Japanese, there's this saying called putting a cat on your head or wearing the cat. Neko kabuteru.
Of course,
But it-
like
yeah.
you do. Yeah.
Like one does. But it means to put on airs, to pretend like you're somebody else. Obviously,
Yeah.
a cat, I guess. Yeah. So you didn't get to see each other wearing the cats on your head, and I was on my first date with my wife, and my brother happened to be visiting. And you can't do that when your little brother's sitting across from you, because he'll just take the mickey out of you. And,
Right. Like, that's not what you're like.
yeah, and so I was just myself in front of my brother with this girl, and she was like, I like him. So she ended up marrying me, but
It works.
it
Yeah.
works, I guess. Hey, everybody listening, be yourself. And unless you can be
the big
Batman,
advice.
then be Batman.
So badly.
Yeah, right. Actually, that's why I moved to Japan in the first place, because I could study ninjutsu over here, and I wanted to be Batman. So
There
There
you
you
go.
go.
yeah,
They need a Batman.
that's right. Yeah, that's right. Hey, did you see the animated Batman Ninja movie?
I did. Yes, it's so good.
I haven't seen it yet. I can't believe I haven't seen it.
Yeah.
The animation
The
is really good.
yeah, it looks really good. Yeah.
Yeah.
The funny thing was, years later we were joking that Crystal was being really nice, and being friendly, and then she overcompensated. So then, then I liked her. So, and then the funny one was I stopped working. This tells you sort of time frame. And I said, hey, I'm going to see Lord of the Rings. And then my phone died.
Right.
I was trying
And
to
he calls
invite
me at
her.
work. He calls me at work. I'm going to go see Lord of the Rings. And I was like, cool,
Okay.
I'm working. And did you just call to like gloat that you're not and you're going to go see a movie? Because that's what it seemed like. Okay, I guess you're cool. Click. Yeah.
So I snuck over to the studio and said, hey, I'm going to see Lord of the Rings. Do you want to go?
Oh, you're asking me to sneak out of work and go to see a movie. Yeah.
So the industry that you guys really are in, I should say, as it pertains to California, what's it like working in that industry? I mean, clearly you can date your coworkers, but aside from that, I'm guessing it's got some amount of freedom and your time cards. How does that work for like folks who are listening and want to get into it? And how do you get into it to begin with? Clearly you took some classes from a competent teacher.
Yes.
Yeah. He's looking left, right.
What? Who's
She's in
that?
the other room, man.
You're the teacher one. Do you want to field how you get into our industry, Derek?
Yeah. Now, when I came out here in '94, I went to Cal Arts for 1 year, and they were hiring anybody who could hold a pencil. I was nothing special as far as I was concerned, but I had a lot of go get it. I didn't want to go to school. I wanted to work in the industry. And so I got offered to work at Warner Brothers. Now, I don't know. Now you take classes and you make connections and you go to things like CTN. Those are great places to make connections.
Well, you need to say what CTN is. So
CTN is the Cartoon Network. Was it Cartoon Network, right? CTN.
right. I thought that was in Atlanta.
They have it here in Burbank once a year, and it's a great place to catch up with all the studios, what they're working on, who's hiring, and they do a lot of hiring from there. They really do. It's not just a meet and greet. They actually have portfolio reviews and classes and things like that. So I went last year. I actually went and talked there last year. But yeah,
Yeah, we
Go ahead,
stopped
Crystal.
we stopped going to those things because we didn't realize how much people were getting hired there, and we were like, oh hey, so hi friend, hi. So we were using it as like a networking, like, hey, let's see our buddies thing.
Right.
And we'd be standing chit-chatting with somebody, and there's a line of like youngins with portfolios getting longer. I'm like, okay, I'm sorry, I'm taking your special time to get to know. Okay, we'll just do this somewhere.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
This
We'll
seeing
do
our
lunch.
buddies thing somewhere else. Yeah, have lunch, bye.
Yeah.
So,
And what's cool with Crystal and I, though, is that, I dare I say 20 years later, after we worked together, we're still drawing for a living.
Right.
It's still faster to draw a storyboard by hand on the Cintiq than any other way. Yes, you can use SketchUp, you can use models, you could use rigged characters. Somebody's still got to rig them, somebody still has to import them.
Right.
You know, the storyboard programs get more advanced every year, but we're still drawing. It's easier as we can do a quick sketch, show it to the client in 30 seconds, you know, and
Right.
like, yeah, that's what I want.
Right.
So,
You guys are very broad. I mean, both of you. And I know this is a podcast, but anybody who can, you can check out the show notes, check out the YouTube version of this. But we want to show you guys are both extraordinarily creative. That's, to be honest, that's kind of how Derek and I met, is that, we were like, wow, man, this guy's into like everything. And I saw you were too, which is the opposite of my wife. My wife is completely that. I mean, she's very artsy, but she's all into like decorating cakes and things like that, which is the reason.
oh, I love that
I don't have a
too.
six-pack. Right.
yes, I'm very grateful for that. Crystal's birthday was earlier this month, and she says, I want to celebrate by making a Earl Grey infused chocolate cake with
Italian buttercream frosting.
Italian buttercream frosting. And I said, you go. You go and do
Birthday's
that.
like right after mine, I think, isn't it?
It's same day.
Oh, right.
That's right, same day. Yeah.
Oh,
Go
right.
Taurus.
Yay.
One of these things is not like the other. Sorry, old reference.
Yeah, that's been coming up a lot lately. What is that on Facebook? People have been doing that recently.
Oh,
Well,
really?
like a Sesame Street challenge. One of these
Yeah.
things is not like the others.
And they've been putting up like all these Star Wars figurines and then one G.I. Joe, and you're like,
That's too easy.
That's old hat.
Too
Yeah.
easy. Actually, the way they made those Star Wars figures and then the G.I. Joe. Crystal, I don't know if you've seen this. I think Derek and I were talking about this, but the Toys That Made Us on Netflix.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
So good.
such a good
Yeah.
show.
It really is. And I love how the guy decided what size to make the Star Wars figures. This big. Just on the table. And up until
That's a
then,
good size.
they'd been like, yeah, he just had this big beefy hand and he's like this big. And he just kind of threw his hand on the table and he decided it right there. But up until then, figures were like either really big or really small.
Yeah,
And,
somewhere in between.
Somewhere in between, and that started a whole line of stuff. So that leads me into my next question, is that I've seen Derek mess around with sculpting and modeling and everything else. Now, I want to know as many different skills as you use in your own, I mean, just as hobbies, whatever, but also in your professional life. Because Derek and I are all about pulling in this and that and the other to make our own art better. Tell us a little bit about how you go about doing that. Because I know you're extremely creative. So,
I mean, the skills that I pull into my work, I feel are pretty much just based on like. It's funny. Derek has taught me to dance because he used to do ballroom dancing, and dance into this whole idea of timing and movement, which works into animation, because that's the whole reason I love animating, is because I love drawing,
right,
acting, and timing, like the movement of
Right.
things. And so you could say that dance kind of falls into that, and I wouldn't do that if it weren't for Derek, because he's the dancer. I'm like, oh, teach me. And then my other the other skills I have, I don't know that they really fit into my work. Like I have, there's a lot of artistic things I like doing, But I feel like a lot of them are sort of an escape from traditional drawing. You know, like there's the thing that I do to get paid for, and then there's the thing that I do because it's like, oh, this is mine, you know?
Right. But those things that you do that, I mean, say it's yours and you're like, this is what I do to kind of release stress or whatever.
Yeah.
They certainly feed
Oh, for sure.
the ability to do the other, because I mean, if you didn't understand dance, of course, it's difficult to draw somebody dancing or even proper movement. But you've also got, you know, flow of fabric and a love of patterns, and clearly, you know, your house is fantastically decorated. You guys have got
we have so much stuff.
Yeah, but I got stuff that's junk. Like my daughter made me a beard for my birthday because she was afraid that, well, this is turning white, right? So this has gone white. And so she has made me something to match the cut. It's made out of cardboard. And it matches the color of my red beard.
So it does look much better with that on.
Oh, I love it. I love it so much.
Yeah. But,
my son says to me today, Dad, I'm not doing anything at all over in my area where I'm doing my class, so don't come over.
Not suspicious. Nothing.
Okay. I won't, son.
Not secret over there.
This is one of those special times when I can tell tales. So I will tell this. Crystal says to me, she said, when we first met and we were hanging out, she says, I can play piano by ear. And I said, oh yeah, me too. No. The plinking that I did with a couple fingers, she sat down and both hands start to dance across the keyboard, and she picks out every note in chord, and it's an exact replica of whatever she's listened to. I mean, it's remarkable.
See, that's what I'm talking about. That kind of, I don't think people really understand how much of a background is needed to come out with something really new and really original. I mean, I don't think there's been anything original for, say, 1,000 some odd years, but the ability to be able to put together, I think as Dorothy Sayers said, if you can't see the connection between geometry and detective work, you're not set up for it. You have to be able to put things together that don't seem connected in any way. And the life of an artist and a designer and just a lot of creative people, they take things from everywhere and put it together. And music, definitely so. And just
I love, like, there's certain instrumental pieces that when I hear them, it can take you somewhere else. It's just amazing, like and how it ties into our artistic side. You know, you listen to a piece of music and you can close your eyes. And I was explaining this to my daughter in the car once. We used to drive back and forth from Burbank to home, and I would say, she's like, why do you like to listen to this song with no words in it? I'd say, close your eyes. And when you listen to this part, doesn't this part sound kind of spooky? Like maybe you're going to the forest and, oh, look, there's a dark cave over there, and you go inside, but then, oh, the music is getting uplifting. Maybe there's a light coming in, shining in through the top, and then you see there's a unicorn back there. And she kind of understood, like, oh, it's this window into another world when you listen to music and really, like, let yourself sink into it. So because I like listening to it.
Oh, you froze. I lost you.
iPhone and my headphones and listen to the notes over and over.
You froze. I lost you. Can you go back, because you like listening to that?
Yeah.
Create
it whenever I want.
Well, that's funny you should say that, because I just lost you again.
I create it now, and then again, and then as I was talking, I saw you froze, and I'm like, oh no.
Create, and then, yeah. Oh man.
We good now?
Sorry about that. Yeah.
Say it one more time.
One more time.
Try to make it sound really natural.
I think there's it's 2:00 in the afternoon, 2:30 in the afternoon over here. So too many people are working at home now, and our internet is just bogged down. So, okay. Sorry guys. everybody else there, we'll either edit that out or it'll just make for a good salt and pepper podcast.
Lots of people need the interwebs right now, including us.
Interweb.
You gotta share. You gotta share the bandwidth.
Bandwidth. Oh, my daughter had no clue what that word was about.
What?
She was like, bandwidth, like my belt bandwidth.
Yeah. You get more through it, and then the smaller, you can get less through it.
I can't get much through mine these days.
Nah.
That story that in England, everybody turns on their tea kettle at the same time. So they have this incredible draw of electricity every day at the same time. So they had to borrow electricity from France. Because,
No, it's 4 o'clock.
yeah, everybody's going to tea.
All the British people need their tea right now.
That's right. Yeah.
Does nobody have gas over there?
I'm sure they do.
Well, if you eat that kind of food.
If
yeah.
you eat that kind of, as a friend of mine is, I had said, listen, I'm looking for a good pudding recipe. And, Americans pudding is,
Right.
custardy pudding stuff.
Yeah.
In England, that's full on anything that's
Any dessert,
boiled or steamed.
Right? Oh, okay.
So it could be a sausage, or it could be anything dessert wise. So it could be anything from treacle tart to, bangers and mash. At any rate, the girls, I finally got them reading. My daughters, I finally got them reading, and they're reading Harry Potter. And so in Harry Potter, they're all, they all have these great, huge feasts at Hogwarts, and they talk about the fantastic puddings and stuff. And my daughter's like, I really want to eat one of those. So I mailed my friend. I was like, you got any good recipes for puddings and stuff? And she's like, just start sending me all these recipes. Holy, I was like, I didn't realize that was in the category of puddings.
Now I have something else I want to look up. Like, okay.
Oh, yeah.
Make puddings.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, the girls had, because my wife is a chef, our daughter's favorite show for a long time was British Bake Off.
Yep.
And man, I tell you what, that just makes, I just watched the show and gained 6 pounds, but anyway, my girls are into it now. And now that they're reading Harry Potter, they want to know more of what you can make, more of what you can do. I mean, they were making wands. I have she's got it in her bedroom, but I took Derek's lead and I made the mandrake.
Oh, the mandrake, yeah.
Yeah,
cool.
yeah. So I think I'm going to do a screaming version now. I showed Derek the other day, but one where you can pull it out of the pot and it. Yeah,
put it back. Oh
screams
God,
at
put
you.
it back.
Yeah.
It's a great idea.
I don't know. We'll see. I have to have time to make it. May not.
Well, that's the thing is with mine, you had suggested that, when I showed you mine, and I was like, I have to just finish a thing.
Oh, right.
That's definitely a problem in this household is we get these ideas of things we want to do.
Right.
And then we get another idea for another thing we want to do. And then the thing you're working on, it's like, that's cool. I want to do this thing over here. Ooh, I want to do this now. And then I know Derek gets this a little bit, but I occasionally suffer from analysis paralysis where I get way into we bought this shelf, this big, really cool corner unit, and we painted it, and I was doing rose mauling on it, that Norwegian style of painting with the flowers, and you do multiple colors on the brush, and studying how to do this rose mauling. So I have all these beautifully painted pieces of cardboard, and then I'm like, oh, but to actually paint the cupboard, I'm not ready for that. So I've painted little parts of it, but I can't bring myself to actually do the doors and finish this project. So it's just been sitting in the living room, in the middle. That's it right there. If you turned it, you'd be able to see what parts that I painted.
That green thing right behind me, that it looks like the obelisk. Yeah.
That's
is that what that is?
It's a triangular shelf.
There's one part that I painted that you can see, but the rest of it I can't.
Yeah.
I'm trying to look at it.
Someday we'll turn it. Here, hang on.
Oh, he's going to turn it. You can see the one part I've painted. I have painted a little bit of it. Besides the fact that it was originally this mustard yellow when we bought it, and I was like, I want to paint it teal. It's going to look really cool.
Oh, that is cool.
So it's got red on the inside. So it's teal on the outside, red on the inside. And there's a tiny bit that I painted, that tiny bit right there.
Oh, that's great.
But someday I'll paint the doors at the bottom when I get like brave enough. I have a design. I just can't bring myself to do it.
We had a moment there. The cat was outside the screen but didn't know how to come back in.
One of those screens that like magnets itself back together.
Yes.
Oh, right.
So the kids can come in and out, from outside.
Leave it open because it's 1 billion degrees here right now. So.
But he's never gone outside. He's always been an indoor cat, so he just ventured outside. Hi, Indy.
Was he all upset?
He got stuck.
Yeah.
We have the doors figured so the kids can go out but can't come back in.
Nice. I like
That'll learn them.
Yeah, well, I don't think my wife and I have had any quality time in the last 12 years, so yeah.
It's a lot with the kid. You have how many? Four
girls.
4 girls.
4 girls. I don't know what causes it, but we're gonna put a stop to it.
That's enough.
Whatever you're drinking in that cup, man.
Yeah. This is. Yeah.
Well, for those who are listening to this, it goes without saying that both Crystal and I did a lot of life drawing. So get out there, do life drawing. There's opportunities to draw online. They have live models that you can Skype in with now or Zoom in with, because obviously you can't go to a live class.
Right.
People say you have to draw from a live model in person because when it's flattened into a 2D image, it becomes easier to sort of figure out the shapes. Mm-hmm. So Crystal and I have done our share of life drawings, but any study of the form is important. But, what we do goes beyond that. It can't be just a good drawing.
If you're stuck in quarantine, pick a movie that you like that has a lot of really good physical comedy in it or good acting in it. And like, I remember at one point going through and watching like Jim Carrey movies and pausing them and like trying to do gesture drawing because he gets these crazy poses. And it's like, oh, you could stick your head out that far and your arms back this far and with the legs like this. And it's funny. And doing gesture drawings for movies if you can't go out, because, normally we'd go to the mall and like people watch, but
right.
Again, can't do that right now.
Yeah.
But, watching other people's acting and filmmaking is always a good place to sort of learn how other people do it.
Yeah, the girls are watching Kevin Perry a lot right now, and he does his 50 ways to do whatever, 50 ways to say no, or 50 ways to sit down, or 50 ways to do whatever. And I think he does it for his own animation techniques because
that's great.
He's a stop animation guy, and he's one of the kids who worked on I say kids because he's younger than 30.
Whippersnappers.
Yeah, one of them whippersnappers. He's one of the guys who I think he's worked on Kubo and the Two Strings.
Oh, okay.
So he's from Leica?
Yeah. So, he's done stuff for Leica. I don't know if he's full time, but watching other people do their acting and then drawing that and seeing that, whether you do it for your own reference or not, I think you definitely need to do live action. I know nobody can go out right now, but Proco, the YouTube channel Proco has a really good, Stan Procopinko is his name, has a fantastic anatomy course, and there's a free version and a paid version. The paid version, of course, gets you feedback, but yeah, it's not 3D. The live model is really necessary, isn't it?
Well, and there's also, for animation, there's forces and flow of the line from the top of the shoulder underneath. Glenn Vilpu, who is very popular out here in LA, he's been teaching forever. He's an amazing artist, and he teaches a Renaissance form of art where it's about the structures under the skin, but how they flow, and how they move from one thing. It's not just chunks and analytical. It's got an energy and a life to it. But before we get going too far, Crystal, I want to make sure that we get everybody to hear what you do for work. What do you tell them about?
Oh, what do I do?
Yeah.
I do stuff. I'm currently a director at Rough Draft Studios. So I direct animated shows. Right now I'm working on Disenchantment, which is Matt Groening's like medieval style. It's Matt Groening's Game of
That's the
Thrones.
Simpsons. That's the Simpsons for
The
folks who don't
Simpsons
know.
guy. So Simpsons guy took a venture into the future and did Futurama.
Yeah.
And then he was like, that's cool. Let's do something totally different. And then we'll go into the past or maybe super distant future or whatever you want to call it. There's all kinds of stuff if you look on Reddit, which may actually be backed up, that the Disenchantment universe is the same universe as Futurama.
Oh.
Yeah.
I work on this show. I do not know this. I can neither confirm nor deny any of what she's saying.
I can confirm it. People on Reddit found this stuff already. They've gone, hey, wait, there's a thing right there. Right there it is. And there's like freeze frames where they, yeah.
It's not just an Easter egg. It's a full on, like they, I remember watching the Tracy Ullman show so long ago and then seeing her, From Hell, School in Hell series or whatever it was that he had drawn, had been turned into animation on her show. And I thought, this is great. And then The Simpsons came out, and I don't know how many seasons of The Simpsons there are. Who knows? But
I should know that. I don't know that.
Yeah.
30, what is it, 30 years worth of, it came out in 1989. I know everybody piled into my dorm room to watch because I had the TV, which is weird. 89, everybody should have a TV, right? But I had a TV in my room. And everybody piled in, and we watched that very first episode of The Simpsons.
Yeah, you're a year or two older than me. I remember we piled into the common room at university, and we all watched the very first episode of the Paul Dini Batman cartoon.
Oh, yeah, those are great.
Oh, yeah, the Batman the animated series. And I was just like, that blew everybody's mind. It just came on, and wow. I love how animation, you find an animated show, something that inspires you, and it can change your life, right? It just leads you into doing something new, like becoming an artist. That was the show that, the reason I brought that up is because that was the show that led me into saying, you know what, I want to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So what was it for you that brought you into this whole world, other than having a fantastic teacher?
The thing that made me want to animate was The Little Mermaid.
Really?
No doubt in my mind. It was, I saw The Little Mermaid as a kid, and I wanted to be The Little Mermaid, and I liked the music in The Little Mermaid, and everything was so floaty and pretty and amazing. And I also loved The Last Unicorn, again, magical, and everything was so cool. And I knew I liked drawing, and I would draw unicorns and Ariel over and over and over and over and over.
Right.
And my
that's
mom,
what animation is, drawing it over and
it
over.
is. I didn't realize I was made for this career. Because my mom, I asked her later, I was like, how did you do it? Because I would have a notebook, and every single page would have Ariel on it. And I'd be like, Mom, look at this one. That's amazing, honey. Good job. Go do another. Mom, look at this one. That's Ariel again. Wow, you're really good at that. Here's another one, Mom. I was like, she was so patient. But yeah, the fact that I loved drawing the same thing over and over and over again, I didn't realize at the time that I could also make a move until I went to a drawing class. I knew I wanted to do art. And so I was taking these charcoal life drawing classes. And in my free time in the class, like I was like, I'll draw this thing, looks like a Da Vinci painting, whatever. I'm going to draw Belle now. And so I did these big, huge drawings of Belle and the Beast next to our drawings that we were supposed to do, which were studies of Da Vinci. And this lady comes by, and she's looking at my drawings, and she's like, do you like drawing animated stuff? Do you like animation? I said, I don't know if I like animation, but I like drawing animated stuff. And turned out she taught an animation class. Her name's Sharon Nemchek, and she works in Portland, Oregon. And she taught this little animation class on Saturdays for groups of young kids who were interested in it. And that's where I found out that it was a thing you could do. It was not I know I watch cartoons, but it did not occur to me that that was a job you could have.
Right.
So, she brings us in, and she's showing us the books, and I'm looking through and going, oh, this person went to Cal Arts, and this person went to Cal Arts, and this person went to RISD, and this person went to Cal Arts, and this person, I need to go to this Cal Arts school. This is where they're all
This
You know.
is where it's at.
But yeah, as soon as I found out that drawing the same thing over and over again and making pretty things move was a job you could have,
Yeah.
that was it for me. I was like, this is what I want to do.
Did what's the class? I can't believe I don't know this right off the top of my head. What's the classroom number that they stick in all the Pixar movies?
A113.
A113. Yeah.
We had many hours in that room.
Mm-hmm.
It was a computer lab when we were there.
Oh, have you stuck that in any of the Disenchantment?
I should, shouldn't I? I haven't, but I should. Put it on the back of like a little wagon somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah. Like it's a license plate number, or well, I don't
Or on
know.
like a bottle of brew or something. Yeah.
Oh yeah. There you go.
Potion.
Potion number. A113. There you go.
I remember at Cal Arts, I had this moment where I was in the middle of class and it was getting close to crunch time, which is where everybody's working really hard trying to finish their films. And I could hear a class going on downstairs and they were playing the Looney Tunes intro. And so I'm sitting up there trying to work and I was like, oh my God, this is the coolest school. Like even when you're in the middle of, I've got to get this done. I'm like, wait, I'm drawing cool things. This is cool. And then there's people watching cartoons downstairs and like studying them. Like what a great place to be. Again, it kind of just solidified that idea, like this is the industry I want to be in. I want to make, fun things with fun music and acting and storytelling and all of that.
Yeah, everybody gets a little disenchanted when they want to go to film school or something, and they end up having to study like Eisenstein, and you're like, that's not what I wanted to do. And then you get to watch Star Wars or study Looney Tunes, and you're like, that's it. And they're like, okay, today we're going to introduce Tex Avery. Woohoo!
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we had. I don't think Crystal had the same teacher, but we had a film history teacher who stuttered.
We did not have that film history. We called our film history class nappy time.
Well, it was nappy time for us. I slept through some of the best movies ever made.
I know, it's so bad.
Because we were all staying up super late to finish our films, and then we'd go in and they turn the lights down and put on this movie, and it was black and white. Sometimes it didn't have sound, and you're like,
yeah, it was not a good combination. Like,
yeah. But at the end of the thing, he would do this commentary where you see in this film the main character, you're like, oh my God, and you're trying to keep up with him, and he was brilliant. He was an amazing film historian, but to keep up with him was an act of real focus.
Well, that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
I didn't really start to study film until after film school. Like, we were so focused on getting our own films done and what is composition again? Okay, and character design, and just trying to get the very basics down.
Right.
But it wasn't until we were actually, for me, until I was actually in filmmaking that somebody would say, we want this part to be more cinematic, like this, like this director or that director. And I'd say, oh yeah, like that guy, and then go home and be like, okay, wait, what is this thing I need to be watching now? And learning from our, coworkers and things that are recommended. Like, I don't know, I feel like I learned so much more there after the base that school gave me. I mean, at least school taught us how to look at things.
Right.
But yeah, as far as filling in all that knowledge, it came afterwards.
Well, it's funny because, you go and you study like Johnson and, your Frank Thomas and Johnson, the 12 basics of animation.
Yep.
They'll teach you those 12 basics, and the 12 basics, but when you start doing them and the expansion of each one of those, how deep each one of those goes, leads to like this whole different thing. And then you have like guys like Tex Avery, like I mentioned a minute ago, who take it to a whole nother level. And it's completely surreal, and you're like, talk about, stretch or squash and stretch. You're like, good grief.
But it's like you have to really understand those principles to be able to totally like turn them on their ear and do something really crazy with it and have your mind go, oh yeah, that works. Yeah.
You can't break the rules until you've studied the rules.
And you know them, yeah.
Yeah. And then, we jokingly say that what we do is fourth dimensional. You're not thinking fourth dimensionally, Marty. It has to be.
It's heavy.
It has to be movement, but it also has a time element, and it also has an emotional element. You know, Frank Thomas said, we don't make drawings that move, we make drawings that move you to feel something, or make moving drawings.
Right, that's good.
So.
Yeah, I think a lot of folks who are new to the industry, and not just this, just artists in general, I'll look at somebody's portfolio and it's not good. And I start to say, I mean, you really need to understand some perspective on this. I can see that your knowledge of perspective is kind of lacking. And they don't understand that being harsh or being straightforward is, I mean, you're going to get it because that's how you get better in art. But they're like, that's my style. And you're like, no, that's not your style. You don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
See, this is where I got in trouble at Cal Arts, because I'd go, your style is wrong.
Yeah. He's so mean. Like, no, he's going to tell you what you kind of need to hear because a lot of people.
Okay, so that's it. Yeah, I don't want to disenchant anybody. Disenchantment. I don't want to disenchant anybody on what's coming up in real life. But if you want to get into this, people really need to know that you really do, like Derek said a minute ago, you really have to understand the rules well before you start to bend or break them. Because otherwise, animation is bringing something else to life. And I guess another version of what was it Frank Thomas or Ella Johnson said, you're not just bringing the drawing to life, you're trying to bring something to life within the audience that didn't exist there before. Doing that is really, really difficult. Tell us a little bit as a director, to get into directing, how do you bring that out in your, not just your work, but in the staff's work? All your artists are doing there as well. How do you do that?
It's interesting because under the deadlines that we have, a lot of times it's hard to really get people to pour themselves into their work the way that you want them to. Like, a lot of times it really comes down to the particular artist. I've had several artists that I've worked with on my crew, because most of the time our crews rotate. So you don't have the same storyboard crew on every show. You have different people that you're working with. And I can say for sure that some of the people I have worked with are really in it. Like, it's like there's something in your mind where you have to be able to put yourself into the character's shoes and really be acting through that character. And the drawing becomes just a medium to be able to act through the character and be doing focusing on filmmaking and the shots that are going to tell that character's story. Whereas other people, just like with any job, are just, I'm going to draw pictures that work with the script, So I feel like it's when you find storyboard artists who understand drawing, perspective, what's the word I'm looking for? Help me, Derek. Gesture and being able to draw anatomy easily enough, like it comes naturally enough that then they're not having to think so much about that part of the drawing, are able to focus more on the character's emotion and the staging and the storytelling. That's when people are really able to step up to the next level of storyboarding. I
know that people who go to Cal Arts often get hired before they graduate, and that's a good thing. I mean, they say, they don't want you to develop your own style yet, because you have to be able to draw every other style. And when you're in that kind of mode where you're like, you can inhabit that character and bring life to them, you need to be able to draw it not the way you want to, but the way the character is defined to look. How do you encourage or kind of sort of I'm forgetting English. How do you cultivate? How do you cultivate? It's okay. My brain froze as well. I couldn't remember how to say something in English. How do you cultivate?
Nice.
How do you cultivate lack of personal style in your artists? I mean, everybody has their own style, but when you're drawing animation, you need to be able to draw those characters in style of what they're doing, right? For instance, Disenchantment has a very, very defined style.
It does. One of the things I really like about working on this show, and I guess I could say luckily for me, a lot of the shows I've worked on, even though the characters have a particular look to them, like the big bulby eyes and the limbs are, the heads are really big and the bodies are sort of scaled down. You still need to know anatomy because you're sort of you put realistic anatomy into these weird, like realistic posing into these weird bodies. Like even SpongeBob, it's like understanding how an arm works.
Right.
Helped my posing when I worked on SpongeBob, even though he's a sponge and his arms are like this, but it's like, yeah, you still have to understand how this connects to that and how the inertia will move his arm when it moves and what poses will make things work right. But as far as being able to draw in all the different styles, Derek taught me a trick for this, and I don't know if he wants to give it up on the podcast. There's a secret. There's a secret to be able to draw anything on model. Anything. Yeah. It's even easier now.
You're going to hear it here first.
I tell my crew how to do it, and some people listen, and I'm like, hey, this stuff looks really good. And other people, I'm like, then listen to me. It's not that hard.
Crystal and I go on to different jobs, and I actually had a new trainee that was sitting directly behind me, and he leans over and he goes, this is your first day on the job. I said, yeah. He says, how do you know how to draw the characters? I said, I don't. He said, but you're drawing it perfectly on model. I said, yeah, click.
Yeah.
And here's the big secret. Go ahead, Crystal. You can tell him.
Well, I think the best way to tell him is tell him your James Baxter story. Because that's where you learned it. And that's
okay.
I love that story.
So I went to James Baxter. I was working on Prince of Egypt, and I was already a James Baxter fan. I have a VHS of his reel of his animation up to that point.
I mean, master of solid model. His stuff is always on model, and then it moves, and it's like it's three-dimensional.
It emotes, but it's solid. It's like it's better than computer animation, So I said to him, I said, James, your stuff is really solid. I really appreciate how you do that. And he said, thanks, and he walked away. I said, maybe I need to phrase it in a question. So I waited a day or so, and then I found a chance to talk to him. And I said, I really like your work. I said, I'd like to make my stuff as solid and as on model as your stuff. Could you help me, take baby steps in that direction? He says, sure. So he takes me over to the copy machine and leaves me there and walks away. And I said, okay, Jedi Master, I don't know what you're doing. Okay. So finally I went to his office and I knocked on the door and I said, James, I don't get it. You left me at the copy machine. What's the trick? And he goes, all right, fine. Come in. And so he closes the door and I was like, you're not going to snuff me, are you?
How dare you ask my secrets?
Yeah. So then he sat down at his desk and he rolled the paper, and on the bottom, taped to his disc, was the model sheet blown up to exactly the size of his scene. And he used the model sheet as a key frame. And he looked at it, and he said he used soft gaze vision. He would blur his eyes a little bit, and he could see if the hair on his was getting bigger than the original. And that was always his go-to point. That was his course correct. So he could always stay on model. We do that to this very day. We just put the model sheet on another layer on the same panel.
So I'll just have the model sheet on another panel. I'll be flipping back and forth, and as the character's turning their head, and I can see if their eyes are moving further apart, so that works for any style, any character. If you've got the model sheet like up on your wall, and you're looking there and you're looking here, it's like you can't really see animation wise if it's something weird is fluctuating. Right. But if you've got it right there under your drawing or right next to it, or you can flip back and forth, you can see if you're going off model really quickly. Right. And it can help. It just helps nail like proportion and performance when you can go back and forth to the model. It's such a great way to nail it.
There are a lot of people who are listening to this who are not, into or don't know anything about animation. I want to say drawing on model means you draw a character, and we kind of hinted at it a minute ago. When you do animation, you have to do a turnaround, and that means you design a character they usually start off 3/4 view, like slightly turned to the a diagonal, but you have a front view, a 3/4 view, a side view, and then a 3/4 turnaround, and then the back. And it's an animation where the character can turn all the way around.
and that's your model. And then you have a model sheet that describes how this character looks from every direction. And you want the characters to continue, like if they, you know, look down at their toes, you still want their nose the same size in the same place, even though it's being drawn. All the proportions have to stay the same. The mass needs to stay the same. One of the things about squash and stretch is that the mass of your drawing needs to stay the same. There's conservation of mass even in drawing. And so that, you know, if a ball is, you know, like a basketball, it doesn't suddenly have more air in it in this one scene than it doesn't, like the amount of air that's in it, even though the ball shape itself changes, the internal volume stays the same, more or less. So, you know, like if somebody takes a really deep breath, their legs might go skinny, but
Mine do.
But you still want to try to get that character to look the same, whatever it is they're going, however they're moving. And so that's drawing on model. I think I got that right. Is that right?
Yep.
You're the professionals?
There was, if you remember, what was it, 2000s, right? There's this thing, there was 3D and 2D animation.
Mm-hmm.
And we would grumble about that because our animation is 3D. It just happens to be drawn.
Right. It's not computer generated, but I'm like, it is 3 dimensions.
We, like you said, we have a character turnaround. Yeah. And we turn them and tip them. You know, we have tricks like the ear is a pivot point. So if you tip the head, right, or if you're doing a head shake and the head shaking from side to side, we put a crosshair on the nose or right between the eyes, and we can track that as it moves.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't do too much or too little, and we can control it. But yeah, it's very 3-dimensional as we're drawing it, even if it is a character that's, quote, 2D.
Right. Right. I think Brent and Max over at BAM Animation have a really good explanation of how to draw characters for animation, where you have to draw it 3-dimensionally, even though it is traditional 2-dimension, you know, 2D right, animation. That is a really difficult thing to get down. Is that something they teach you in school, or is that something that you just can practice? You know, guys who are listening to this, girls who are listening to this podcast, they can practice on their own. They need feedback, I'm guessing. You know, you want to make sure you get it right, because practice doesn't make perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect, right?
Right,
Exactly.
Right. I mean, even if you're drawing the most stylized character, if you've done loads of life drawing and you understand how to foreshorten a realistic human head, if a person is looking up, and the way you foreshorten the way their nose sort of looks more like it's between their eyes, the further their head goes up, and when you really understand how foreshortening works, then when you get an animation model and you want to turn that animated character's head into a different direction, it's so much easier if you understand how it's actually working in physics, like in reality. Because I think a lot of times people are not doing these life drawings and not understanding how anatomy works. And, you know, if you look at a skull and how does that turn and how solid is that, it informs these cartoon characters so much.
Right.
You've got to know this stuff. And you can really tell, you know, in the industry who knows it and who doesn't, you know, who's drawing just on the surface.
I've got this.
He went away.
I know, I'm right here.
We lost him. He's
He has books in the background, though. I saw that thing, and you're smart if you have books in the back. I don't have any books.
You got Yoda. You got Baby Yoda.
Do I have Yoda? I have, wait.
Baby Yoda.
Can I pretend this is a book? There.
Yes, there you go. Now you have a book behind you, just off camera. There you go.
have,
Baby Yoda can hold the book.
I have a lot of magic books, and then illustration, Disney sketchbooks, comic books, Star Wars.
This book is full of kyber crystals.
Lovely.
That's my wife.
I love it. I have this book, which I highly recommend to everybody. Is a necessity, How to Draw.
There you go.
And this is drawing and sketching objects and environments from your imagination.
That's
this
cool.
is Scott Robertson. This is absolutely this is an absolute necessity. If I'll put a link to it in the show notes. I hope I remember to do that. But
I'll remind you.
There's a thank you, sir. There's another YouTuber named Modern Day James. I really recommend to other people as well. He more or less does on YouTube what this book says, and it's how to draw things in perspective from every angle and how to get that down so that you do understand the physics of what's happening when you're drawing things from different angles and different, the perspective that goes, the distortion, how to draw it with different lenses, because, when you're filming something, you're using a lens on a camera, and that doesn't actually change when you're drawing something in animation. You're still using a virtual lens, and you need to be able to draw that character the same way that the lens would distort the light, right? So, and there are a lot of things that I really want our listeners to kind of say, oh, wow, this is a rabbit hole I really want to go down, because it is super fascinating, and there's like no end to learning in this.
No.
Yeah.
Glenn Vilppu, who was one of my early life drawing teachers when I moved out here, he really emphasized that animation is a Renaissance art. I think that's why it's good to talk to Crystal too, because she's a woman in an industry that used to be dominated by men. It is no longer, which is brilliant. But it is a Renaissance, one of the last Renaissance arts, because it combines physics and motion and anatomy and psychology.
Yes. I don't think people understand how much psychology it really encompasses, because there is so much.
Yeah. I mean, whether you're animating a character or, there's not much cause for us to animate anymore because we're doing storyboards. We can't help ourselves. If I have a line of dialogue, I'm going to put the acting poses in where they need to be for this line of dialogue. And you've got to understand what's going on in that character's head to be able to have other people feel what they're feeling.
How much do you read? Like,
I used to read a lot.
Well, I mean, I know that we're all artists and we love to draw and we love to see movies and stuff. My girls are, like I said earlier, they're right in the middle of Harry Potter, but I got them to read the books. And for a long time, they're like, I don't want to read anything that doesn't have pictures to it. And now they're like, no, it's so much more vivid. And I'm like, yeah, it is. And the more you read about stuff, you really start to kind of do the acting in your head, and you understand how people are feeling, and it's easier to actually put it out. How's that affected?
I read something recently that was explaining the importance of reading to your children and having them read, because they were saying that when you read, you put yourself into the other person's shoes. And that if you're watching a movie, you're just watching that character. But if you're reading it, you're experiencing it along with them. And so, it's a lot more, internal when you read, to feel like, what is that character going through and how would that make me feel? And I think it also teaches people empathy. But learning that, like, it's so great for filmmaking that I don't read as much as I like. We read to the kids, and then I listen to books on tape in the car. So it's sort of there.
Books on what?
Books. I say books on tape, and I also say videotape. My daughter says videotape now, and she uses the phone to record things. I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry.
She says, Daddy, I'm gonna videotape you.
This. I listen to what do they call them now?
Audiobooks.
I had an 8-track player in my last car.
Nice.
I listen to other people read to me.
It's funny because your brain, it's a different part of your brain that does this. And we were, Kim Jung-gi, the illustrator, I don't know if you guys know who he is. Yeah.
He's that mad genius who just draws everything with a pen in perspective, and it all looks amazing.
And and it's like he'll start like on somebody's boot, and it ends up being this astronaut in space with like 15 spaceships around him, and everything perfectly.
People who can draw
like, how did you start there? But I don't suggest, just to let you guys know, I don't suggest to our readers that anybody go look up his webpage, because it's not safe for work. The guy's imagination is off the hook and very much not kid friendly. On the other hand, he'd come to Tokyo, and we were chit chatting around. He had a bunch of people around him, and I was just trying to get a hold of how do you do this? And he's like, the amount of stuff that you have to draw to get the shape language and the library into your head, right?
Yeah.
To understand it. It's just, you just don't ever put the pencil down. You just keep drawing and drawing and drawing. Always. Yeah. And I mean, I love to draw, but I don't have as much time as I used to, not with kids.
No.
Folks, if you're listening, before you have 14 kids, draw now.
Draw a lot now.
Draw a lot.
But people ask us, they say, how do you get good at this? And it's, well, we do it every single day.
That draw all the time.
Yeah.
I like what you said about like learning a new shape language. I think people need to know that it's like, it's okay to see a new artist that you like and like try drawing their stuff. I think a lot of people like, you don't want to plagiarize. You don't want to say that it's yours. But I remember, I think it was around the end of high school. Like I'd always been drawing pretty fantasy things. And I saw some Geiger stuff and I was like, oh, that's so different. And I remember starting to draw these creepy looking alien things. And my mom's like, what happened?
You said, just go golf on me.
I'm fine, Mom. I'm fine. This is just this different thing I found, and but looking at different styles can help inform yours and create a bigger language in your mind of like what things you can draw. And
well, I think for a long time, that's how people studied. I mean, if you were going to study painting, you copied the masters. That's what you did.
Yeah.
The kids are outside screaming. I don't know if you guys can hear this or not, but
they're sleeping.
It's
they would be
30 here. So what time is it there? It's like 11. Oh, I'm so sorry, guys.
Oh, he's back.
I'm back. Sorry.
I figured the screaming children like shocked you into some sort of.
Well, the internet's frozen, so the kids don't have anything to do. They're outside playing. I don't know. I wanted to say that. Oh shoot, where were we? Everything froze, including my brain.
We're looking at other people's styles and how you can pull stuff from.
Yeah,
learning from the masters.
Right,
yeah, I think for a long time people learned by copying the masters. Like there's a whole school of folks who they, like really famous artists. People are still trying to figure out. Is this done by? Did I freeze again?
You froze and Derek's rescuing a cat.
Sorry, I was making sure the cat wasn't outside.
He's like, I'm stuck again. Okay.
Is he still? Is he in there?
There's Connor.
Well, no. The
Maybe
reason
he opened some food.
is Connor the cat.
We have Connor the cat and Indy the cat.
Is this Indiana Jones and Terminator?
Close. Indiana Jones and Connor McCloud. I'm the only one.
That's not how bad.
I was trying. My kids were watching some show where Clancy Brown was doing the voice for the character, and I was like, "Girls, that's one of my favorite actors." And they're like, "I've heard his voice before," and I was like,
"Oh my god!"
And they're like, "The what?" Never mind.
Like, we can edit
I'll
that.
show you. We watched that. We were like, "Can we show the kids Highlander?" So we watched it. We're like, "No, not yet."
Not yet. Not yet.
Again, because when you work in animation, you occasionally run into famous people. And I was at a SpongeBob rap party, and Clancy Brown was there, and I was like, "Oh, it's Clancy Brown! It's Clancy Brown! I can't talk to him." I was
Why
so
not?
It's the Kurgan.
I could not bring myself to talk to him because I knew I was just like too much of a geek fan. So I didn't talk to him, and I regretted it so bad. And then I was working somewhere else, and I saw him again, and I was like, "Okay, I'm going to talk to him this time." So I went and talked to him, and he was so nice, and he was so cool. He was saying that like the whole reason he does SpongeBob is because he wanted to do something that his kids and the kids in his life could watch. I was like, that's so cool.
Because they can't watch Highlander.
No, not till
you're
older.
Shawshank Redemption.
No, not till
I saw Highlander in high school, and it was the best thing ever.
Yeah.
Oh,
And then
man.
Highlander 2, that just doesn't exist.
No,
Yeah.
it doesn't. And of course, we were like, Highlander 2, yay! Oh, no.
And then there's a third one. You're like, what in the world?
No.
Yeah, I think we were having this conversation with Ted, weren't we?
Yes.
Yeah, the guy that is going to be coming on the show in a couple of weeks, he's the head artist for all the Bandai, for instance, all the Bandai model boxes. So he does all these,
Wow.
all this.
Here, I'll take that. Here, I'm reaching
What?
through.
I've already built it, so
Assembling.
I'm
right through the screen.
yeah, thank you.
Yeah, he's the artist for that, and he's the official Macross like Robotech illustrator as well. Tenjin Hide, and he's also a voice actor, and he does Clancy Brown's voice for Star Wars things here in Japan.
Okay.
So when you watch like Rebels in the Japanese version, it's Tenjin's voice that you hear instead of Clancy Brown's, and I love the dude to death, but it's just not the same. It's like I'd love to have his voice. I don't think anybody would. I don't know if anybody would listen to the podcast, and be able to pay attention, or if they just run away in fear because it'll be like, so this week we're gonna have. It's like that's yeah. You do get to meet a lot of people in the animation industry. You really do.
Yeah.
But clearly that's not why you do it. On the other hand, there are great benefits and pluses that you just can't deny. What would some of those be? Like, what are some of the other fantastic benefits that you get? Because the wrap parties are fantastic.
The wrap parties are fantastic, and it's weird to put this. We put all this work into what we do, and then we're sort of considered like behind the scenes. So sometimes we get to go to the wrap parties, and other side they're like, "Well, we're just inviting the talent, so you guys don't get to come." I'm like, "Wait, what?"
I've worked on movies where I didn't get invited to the wrap party, and it just.
But when you do get to go, it's always interesting to me. I mean, maybe the actors are just being nice, but they always seem really interested in what we do in the artistic side of it, and how we take their voices and create these performances around them. Like, most of the actors that I've talked to about that aspect of it, they're really cool about it.
Yeah, animators really are actors. I mean, you were saying you really need to understand the psychology. You really do, because
I mean, even storyboard artists.
Yeah.
When you're boarding, possibly more so, because your shots are also supporting the acting that you're creating in these scenes. So.
Well, you're setting up. Derek, you're in timing, right? I mean,
I'm doing all of it. Yeah, all at the same time.
Yeah, but you guys set the tone for that, right?
But the idea, especially in storyboarding, is that, like we were both animators, and then we went into storyboarding. And when you're storyboarding, you're putting in just the poses you need,
right? So
that you can sell the action. You don't have time to put every drawing in. You want to, but you can't.
Right.
So you have to see it in your head and know just what you need to put in to communicate to the next stage what needs to happen.
Okay.
So, sometimes it's the key poses, sometimes it's not, sometimes it's less. Crystal and I both try to do maybe a pose or two per line of dialogue, sometimes more if it asks for it.
What would you suggest to folks who want to either go into animation or go into directing for animation or just for TV? I mean, clearly there are things that you need to study: anatomy, perspective, drawing, fundamentals, etc. But what are some like specific ways that do you need to move out to LA?
Apparently not anymore.
What kind of portfolio do you need to set up? What do you need to show? If you were going to hire somebody, what would you want to see?
What I want in a board artist, or I would say in another director, is being able to draw solidly so that you can get your ideas across. Because in our industry, especially if you're storyboarding, your storyboards are going to be sent potentially overseas, or they're going to be reinterpreted by a computer animation crew. So if you can draw a solid shot that there's no question what you were going for there, and the acting and the head tilts and the gestures that you draw, there's no question what you were going for, and the things are bang on model, then things aren't going to get reinterpreted or changed. So when I see somebody's portfolio and I can tell this person knows perspective, this person knows I can tell what they're trying to draw here, and it looks like they would probably be able to draw on model. If we gave them a test for whatever show that things are on model, but they're also able to act with them, I mean, that's what I would be looking for is solid drafts person who can also like act and come up with cool shots. And super importantly, like we were talking about, when you give somebody a critique, that they're open to it. You know, I've worked with people who are really eager to learn, and I've worked with people who are just like, they don't care, or they don't want to hear it because their cup is full. And we always have room to grow. We always have something to learn. Like, I still have stuff to learn. So if somebody was going to give me, I mean, I get critiques from our supervising directors all the time, and it may be little things like, hey, you need to watch for more, you know, be careful about your hookups between one scene and the next when you're directing a show. There's little things we get critiqued on, and I got to take that in. But there's a lot of people we work with that, especially when they've been in the industry for a long time, they're like, I'm really awesome. I don't need to take critiques anymore. You can't tell me what to do. And that's just not the attitude to have in this career. Like, you've got to be open to new ideas, open to critiques, and open to people telling you how to grow artistically. And especially if you're new, like if you're new and you know you're good, you don't let the people around you know how good you are. Because if we like try to give you a pointer and you're like, yeah, no, I'm awesome already, you can't tell me what to do. It's like, I don't know if I want to work with that person.
Yeah. We're students of body language, you know, so I think we're pretty good at picking it up. So when you're giving them that critique and they're like, sure,
Yeah.
that's what you want.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've done that. I've given somebody, I was like, can you draw it? Can you do the scene looks great, but I'd appreciate, you know, can we do this, this, and this? And they're like, okay. It's like, all right, I hope I'm going to get something good after that. I don't know what's going to happen now.
Yeah.
Sure.
I think one of the things we tend to forget is that it's not just us that's going to be making the show.
Right.
And you need to remember that there's a whole bunch of, like, even the person who's over you and what they're directing you, they're hearing that same thing from whoever's over them.
Yeah.
You know, everybody's got a boss.
Yeah.
And I mean, at some point you just kind of go, well, where's this stop? You know, it ends up being designed by committee or whatever. And that's great. But I mean, the movie, the Incredibles, Mr. Incredible, or whatever it's called in the States, it's the Incredibles here, or it's Mr. Incredible. I don't remember what it is.
Yeah.
Anyway, it was a completely different story to begin with. Right.
Yeah.
And it was entirely different. And they're like, yeah, well, let's make it just like everybody can fly but him. And some of the artists got really, really upset because their ideas about what was going to be done got changed. And we need to remember that it's not just us making this thing, right?
Yeah.
Right,
so
right. There's a lot of collaboration. There's a lot of changes. There's a lot of being willing to pour yourself into a scene, pour yourself into something, and then be fine with like, okay, that's cutting room floor. I did a really good job on that, and I loved it. And okay, there it went, whatever.
Yeah.
Being okay with that. Like, it's not always easy.
Yeah. I think it's humbling. So if you can't come into the job realizing that, you know, because I did a couple of seconds on the Piglet movie, and it never saw the movie theater.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, that took me a month of work. It's like, come on.
We both animated scenes for the Simpsons movie, and none of that ended up in the. She did a couple of scenes that ended up in the movie, but I did a whole part of a sequence that was cut.
I was assistant directing. Like that movie was chopped up into 4 segments, and there were 4 directors, and I was assistant directing for one of the 4 directors, and they were like, hey, you know, you're doing a really good job with that assistant directing thing. Here's a whole chunk. We're just going to have you direct this little chunk. And so this whole extra little storyline with a different character, that's all of it is not in the movie. But it was, you know what? I think at that point I'd already gotten used to, like, you do a thing, to some extent, like, we're glorified pizza making. I made this amazing pizza and I delivered it to them and they just decided not to eat it. But I made the amazing pizza and I was very proud of it.
Who doesn't eat pizza?
I made a thing and I gave them the thing and they decided not to use the thing, but I did deliver as I said I would.
But that's another thing that we got to remember, that you do, if you want to work in this industry, you got to be able to deliver.
Yep. On time.
Yeah,
really
Those
do.
pizzas got to be on time.
Well, the last studio I worked at, people say, "Oh, is that a good place to work?" And I said, "Yeah, it really is a great place to work." But they give you 6 weeks, and at the end of it, you better have a storyboard, because they give you the script and leave you alone and let you make a storyboard. So you got to deliver. You've got to be able to manage your. I know we're all artists,
Yeah.
but yeah, you've got to be able to work within confines. And I guess the other thing, because this became sort of an animation podcast for anybody listening.
Yeah.
There's two different mindsets. We use two different brains when we work. One is the rough, posing out, brainstorming scribbles. And then there's the other part where we're analytical and we're putting things on model and we're making sure perspective works. And they're really two separate things. And I don't know many people who do both at the same time. So,
I can't do both at all, so I can't do either one. Yeah, I think it's important that everybody understand that you really do need to be able to not just manage yourself and your time, but also the way you work with other people, because it is a team thing, but you're going to be doing a lot of stuff by yourself. So we're an hour and a half in. Yeah. I don't.
That happens.
You guys who are listening, like an hour ago, you might have said, "This is so long," but time flies. This is great. I love this. It's been really fantastic having you on here. And if Derek, if it's okay with you, if we can invite your better half on again.
Absolutely.
I can talk about something other than animation too.
Yeah,
Well,
she does all kinds of things.
That's what I was like. What are the other things that feed into being creative? So
We could do a part 2.
For next time.
I don't know. As much as, to be honest, as many things as you guys are into, you could do like a part 17 and not run out of material. So,
I mean, the fun thing about being married to another maker, builder, creative type person is that we feed off of each other. Because one of my other little hobbies is I like dolls and miniatures and all this like 1/6 scale stuff. And early on when I started collecting these dolls, and I'd paint their little faces, and I was like, I'd love to have a tea room for these dolls. And Derek's like, we could build that.
Did you build that for her birthday a couple years ago?
We built parts of it. Yes.
Yeah.
I remember seeing that.
Yeah, we 3D printed parts of it. She has a Quidditch set that's to scale.
That's what I saw. That
was for Christmas. Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember that. That was great.
Well, and we work together really well on stuff like this because I love painting in miniature. Like I was one of those kids in high school who would write your name on a grain of rice. So like painting really tiny. So he gives me this Quidditch set, and he's like, I don't know if he was lying to me just to give me something fun to do. He's like, I couldn't quite paint the tiny animals on the shields. So here's a thing. And I'm like, I can paint the tiny things. Yay. So I'm sitting there like, I love painting tiny things. So there's another thing we can talk about next time, making miniatures and painting tiny things. And
I think there's a whole niche of, being able to do those miniatures is literally a world in and of itself. I mean, looking at the detail that I saw on the Quidditch thing is just phenomenal. And I didn't realize until I came here to Japan how big that world of creators is, because there's a shop here called Tokyo Hands that sells everything and the kitchen sink. They literally sell everything.
We never get her out of there.
No.
I cry every
I'd
time
have
I
to
go.
go with like a bunch of extra suitcases. Oh, lots of suitcases of tiny things.
Everything fits in here. Actually, it wouldn't. You need an enlargement charm.
I just picture being at customs, and they're like, well, what's in this suitcase? You're like, there's a couch and a fridge and a staircase.
There's an entire cupcake counter and all the cupcakes, and
There's so much stuff in here. Yeah, this shop has. I cry every time I go. I wanted to get that too. It's got a whole section devoted to making these miniatures, and then the supplies you need for them. Books, on how to do it. Yeah, it's fantastic. And of course, there are several different, branches of this shop. There's one in Shinjuku, one in Shibuya, one in Ikebukuro, and each one is laid out differently. And so whoever the store manager is maybe like, I want to put more of this in there. And I think I'd found the one in Ikebukuro that the miniature section was just massive. And they sell these little like laser cut doll houses kind of things where you can put together and make your own. Anyway, that world is a whole different world. It's
when all this calms down and we can take a trip to Japan, hint, hint, nudge, nudge, wink, wink.
Yeah. Friend.
Anytime, man.
Friend. Yeah.
Yeah, anytime. Not anytime for folks listening. I'm talking to Derek.
Anytime outside that window.
Yeah.
That's right.
I'm talking to Derek.
Outside the window of all this craziness.
Yes. Though everybody listening, if you're not in Japan, I highly suggest the trip. It's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of fun, and it's a safe place to be, which is good. It's the least Asian of the Asian countries. I don't know if that makes any sense, but there's a lot
I can see that.
Yeah, I'm gonna cut this one short, and then it's not short, but ask if you guys want to do this again. This is really good.
Sure.
Yeah, that was very, very good. Yeah, this is a bit more animation, but I know you do a lot of other things, so I think we'd like to pick your brain on that as well. And you
next
are.
time we can talk about making things.
Yeah.
Making stuff.
And painting models that Derek can't see with his old eyes. He's like, I can't see them.
Where are they? There we go.
No, see, since we're not being recorded, because I don't want to sound all like, meh. I love painting tiny things, so I've been painting the tiny dolls for like a long time. And then my friend Amy, we started getting into D&D.
Oh, really?
So she's like, oh, let's take one of those classes where you paint miniature, like the little miniature D&D figures. And I'd already been painting tiny things for a really long time. So we went to this class at a D&D store. And the guy's like, how many of you have painted miniature D&D figures before? How many of you, this is your first time? And I'm like, my first time. So they're showing us how to do the washes and everything. And I'm like, I got this. It's tiny. I know what to do. So after the class, he's like, let me take a look at everybody's figures. So he picks up the people and he's like, okay, so when you paint this, you can do more of this. And he grabs somebody else's and like, oh, the eyes are really good. You could do this on this part. And he picks up mine and goes, so we have this contest every year for the you need to enter the contest for the painting contest. I was like, yay, my practice has paid off.
Very good.
I was like, oh, now I want to paint more minifigures.
And he's like, you're lying. This is not your first time.
This is not your first class. I said, it is my first class, but I paint little doll faces. So
right.
Yeah. I was like, I kind of lied. I do paint tiny things.
Well, we have the photon printer, so we can print the little figures.
Yeah.
You
just have to paint them now. Paint the tiny things.
So I taught a RISD class. I was a guest lecturer at RISD, telling people how to like present themselves creatively. And so my resume was making this action figure of myself.
Oh, that's so awesome.
And it comes in action figure case, and then it has like a little cardboard back, so it looks like a
it's like a blister pack, right?
Yeah,
Is that what they call it?
And I wanted to do a vacuum form on it, but I don't have a vacuum form machine.
Oh,
but,
God.
Hello, child.
Hi, child.
Hello. What's up? You got a loose tooth. Let's see.
That looks like it's the same one as Kaylin had.
Our daughter just lost hers.
I think she lost that same one. What? Right there?
Right there. Oh, yeah, it's going to come. Well, not yet. Not yet. Almost. You take a big bite out of an apple. Oh, come right out. No, not looking forward to that.
Kaylin's like, look, I can twist it.
Dingo, right? Dingo. An apple.
Yeah, Dingo.
Right?
Yeah. Yep. She doesn't speak much English. Oh, we woke somebody up, did we? Oh, is that the cat?
It's probably the cat.
Cat.
I've seen somebody.
I
No.
thought I saw somebody go
Oh
down.
no, I was looking for my. Here's my little person. It won't show up on the camera though. So.
You have to hold it up really close to the screen.
Oh wow.
You're not gonna be able to see anything on there. She has a metal outfit.
Oh wow. That's much better than mine.
You can't see that.
It's this time. I mean, it's so small.
It's this big.
I didn't even like bother putting in like a face on this guy, and this guy's not small. He's pretty big, and doesn't even have eyes.
Oh, to paint his face.
I don't have eyes, so my eyes are so
Just
small.
put little lines.
Yeah. Of what though? My eyebrows and my eyelashes, everything's the same color as my face. So
I'm sure you guys have touched. We can talk about this next time, but that whole idea that like the way that the internet shows people how to do things nowadays. Like I saw these people taking action figures that exist and painting them to look slightly more realistic, and all of a sudden the action figure looks amazing. It's like, oh,
yeah.
I want to do that. And then my daughter got this Ray doll, and it's like hideous and doesn't look anything like Ray. And I'm like, wait a minute, I think I can do. Ooh, it looks like her now. It's very rewarding. Like,
Stan Winston once said, "A really good paint job will save a bad sculpture."
Oh yeah.
And so
vice versa too. You could have a really good sculpt, as we've seen. You get a really good sculpt with a okay paint job, and
lost you. Oh man.
One that's actually sticking out this long. We'll edit it down, but
got it.
Oh well, I just actually lost you because I heard.
Okay.
You've seen a sculpture with a really good sculpture with a bad paint job. Then you froze and said, and it was really long that you have to cut it down.
No.
That kind of sculpture.
That kind of sculpture.
No, you and I were talking, James, about how you can have a really good sculpture, and if the paint job is bad, it kills it.
Yeah.
There's the kitty.
There's Indy.
There's Indy behind me.
He's in the house.
He's in the house. He's now in the shelf.
Yeah, you can have a good sculpture and a paint job. If it's not good, we'll just.
Yeah, we used to see that at Comic-Con every year, where these beautiful big drawings, in pencil, all hatched and beautiful, and then the eyes would be looking off in different directions and unfocused, and you go, all that work, and you give me a pencil, I'll fix it. Come here.
Focus the eyes just a little. Just.
I mean, there's a great. I don't know if this story's ever been told wide in public, but it was a great story that was told to me years ago about Ollie Johnson, and he was in the archive in the morgue down in the basement at Disney, and he goes, "Oh, that's one of my scenes." He says, "I never liked that. Give me a pencil." He said, "No, Ollie, this is archived. It's done. No one's going to see it." He goes, "Yeah, but that one drawing just bugged me. Give me a pencil." She goes, "No, Ollie, I can't. I mean, it's already it's archived. It's history." He goes, "Put a pencil on the table and turn around." And so she finally, and this was told to me by the lady that was archiving it.
Oh,
and
man.
she says, "Okay." So she puts the pencil on the table, and she turns, and she's looking over his shoulder, and he goes to the one drawing, and he fixes the pupil, and that's it, and then gives it back, and he goes, "Okay, all right, I'm satisfied now." But it had been bugging him that the focus was off, and he remembered that one drawing in that scene.
That's amazing. Yeah, of all those 24 frames, well, I guess he may have been drawn on doubles, but
yeah,
24, 12 drawings
still,
per frame. And he remembers that one.
Yeah,
I can't stand it when I see a really good drawing, but the eyes are like, in Japanese we call them donperi. One eye's looking at London and the other one's looking at Paris. and they look like they're Columbo. It's kind of like, yeah, let me ask you a question. Your drawing is fantastic, but you've got like one eye. I'm like, come on.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, Jim Henson talks about that. He would cross the eyes ever so slightly.
Oh, but it looks like they're focused.
It looks like they're looking at the camera because he got rid of the proscenium. He got rid of the stage, and the edges of the TV screen became the stage. So he wanted the characters to look directly at you into the camera.
Yeah.
No.
That's one of those model things, though, because like when we would work on Looney Tunes, we could do those really like ellipsed pupils, and you could cross them like crazy, and they look great, like focused. And on the Matt Groening shows, if you go remotely close to cross, like they've got to be, those eyes have to be both looking almost out from each other, almost like fish-eyed. And if you start to cross them at all, it looks off model. I'm constantly correcting the boards where I'm like, no, they look cross-eyed. You can't do that in the show.
Okay. Quiz for you. What's the first?
Okay.
I think this is true. I've heard. What's the first model? The first character in Disney where his eyes actually go, his pupils actually leave the eyeballs on a movie.
Where the pupil came out.
Yeah. I'm not entirely sure.
I don't know if I know this one.
Okay.
I'm not entirely sure this is 100% true, but from what I've heard,
You can fact check it.
yeah. Do you know, Derek?
No, I don't. I don't know this.
As far
No.
as I know, it's Genie, where Genie's eyes actually, when they're drawing his eyes, like if he's looking down, his pupils are actually outside.
Oh, the pupil is like partially off.
Yeah,
That seems like something
but
Eric
they cross the
Cooper
eye line. Like his
would
pupils
do.
are not like inside the eyeball.
Yeah.
They
Yeah,
cross
and
the eye
Eric-
line.
Eric's an amazing cartoonist, but he's built of sort of the same education as us. So he believes things should be solid, and so the idea is that the iris
Right,
bulges
it's round.
out,
Yep.
right? But it bulges out beyond the dome of the eye. So if you look down, you could exaggerate that and have it stick out.
Mhm.
I knew animators that when they did their tie downs, they would draw crosshairs around the contour of the eye to make sure that the eye was sitting.
Really,
Yeah.
really.
Yeah. So
Yeah, we do that on the head all the time, but doing it on the eyeballs.
on the eyeballs, yeah.
Yeah, right.
They would,
Wow.
yeah.
That's cool. All right.
We should let you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I still got to work.
It's late.
Well, it's late for you guys. What time is it?
12. It's coming up on 12.
Tonight,
Oh,
4
man.
minutes until I turn into a pumpkin. We're good.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
No, we stay up late all the time now.
Oh, okay.
Because
Well,
it's our little window of child free time.
wait till they get older.
Oh God.
Yeah.
They
don't-
want to stay up late. They just,
Well,
They're not tired.
I have one who's old enough that she'll stay up as late as we do. And no matter how hard I try to get her to go to bed about an hour earlier, even then, she can't go to sleep. And you have no free time. Just
Oh God.
none. And it's so hard to get,
Oh God.
I think parents need to put kids to bed early, not because the kids necessarily need sleep, but man, if you don't have that 1 minute of free time,
Uh-huh.
goodness gracious, you just kind of you go crazy. Oh man. Anyway, go have some free time. Yeah, free of the kids and free of James.
Until next time.
Until next time, where we talk about making things.
Yes.
All right. Yeah, I think the traffic is flowing in my house as well. So,
All right. We'll
Crystal?
let you go.
yeah, Crystal, it's been great having you on the show. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Yeah,
It
wow,
was fun.
excellent, most excellent. Let's do it again.
Absolutely.
Everybody listening, go make something. Go be creative. Don't let this stay-at-home thing stop you from doing what you want to do.
Well, it's important to remember that the internet is a renaissance. I mean, it's a chance to try anything. I mean, there's so many tutorials and things that you can check out. So, even though we're stuck at home, you can try meditation. You can try building a model. You can try papercraft. You can learn about a 3D printer and then order one. There's
Yeah,
all kinds of. You can learn to play an instrument. There's all
learn
those
card
things.
tricks. It's a perfect time to learn card tricks. Yeah.
Learn to play the ukulele in the backyard and hope the neighbors aren't getting too annoyed with you.
Which is what we've been doing.
Oh wow, really? Okay then.
Oh yeah, I'm out in the backyard like every day with the ukulele, hoping that the neighbors aren't getting annoyed.
I think it sounds good.
Well, don't do it at midnight.
Yeah.
You're all good to go.
All
All
right.
right, guys, be good or be good.
Till
at
next
it.
time.
Yep.
Till next time.
Thanks.
Bye.